April 1st, 2015. After gaining access to the Steamworks developer program and looking for vulnerabilities in the publishing system, a devious prankster decided to highlight the ease of getting a game onto the platform while getting a serious laugh at Steam while doing so. The video game titled Watch Paint Dry was uploaded onto the platform and had described itself as a sports puzzle game that evolves around one mysterious cutscene. The game quite literally just involved a still image with the title, Watch Paint Dry, the game, all in lowercase, and a menu giving the soul fortunate enough to play this the options to watch paint dry, not use this, or buy. While Watch Paint Dry was just a trick to emphasize the weakness and ineffectiveness of Steamworks, it wasn't the first of its kind to be made. April 1995. Penn & Teller's Smoke and Mirrors is planned for release on the Sega CD. The collection featured the game Desert Bus, which is a simulation trick minigame where the goal of it is to drive a bus from Tucson, Arizona to Las Vegas, Nevada, a feat which takes 8 hours in real time, requiring the player's constant attention, occasionally passing a rock, making the door squeak, honking the horn, having a bug sometimes splatter on your window, along with no pause button. And the worst part was, at the end of the 8 hours, you didn't get to experience hookers, strippers, grand hotels, slot machines, roulette wheels, blackjack games, or any other enjoyable trademark of Las Vegas. You do get a point, though.
A point. One fucking point!
Penn Jillette commented in his radio show, Penn Radio, that the overly realistic nature of the game was in response to Janet Reno's comments in support of the moral panic about violent video games at the time. While Desert Bus might have been a satire of games being censored and limited in what they could express to the point where it was as mundane as real life, this very early version of these kinds of simulator games wasn't the most absurd of what was to come. April 20th, 2016. Jesus, why does everything keep happening in April? A proposed video game entitled Watch the Grass Grow was actually put on Steam Greenlight, with its overview section saying, "Ever wondered what it would be like to watch grass grow? Wonder no more, because now you can with Watch Grass Grow." Need I say more about this game? These games are just a few examples of a certain genre that can have the most notable effects on players. If you want to truly enlighten your understanding of what might be this brand new concept of gaming to you, we're gonna have to get technical for a minute. I define vera-simulators as video games that are so immensely accurately and overtly like real life that the experience of playing them becomes mundane and almost indistinguishable from the monotonous of life. Or as Penn Jillette himself puts it,
vera-simulators, games stupefyingly like reality.
As you may have already realized, the one thing these games have in common is they lack any real depth, interest, or compelling action, with Desert Bus being the most interactive of them, in that you have to constantly keep your attention on the game for 8 hours and do nothing but drive. I distinguish these from joke simulator games, where the experience is based on a heavily exaggerated, or mocked, or satirized, or straight up inaccurate portrayal of a certain job or event, because those are actually meant to entertain and or be funny on one level or another. But where vera-simulators are different is that they're designed to not be entertaining, fulfilling, challenging, or stimulating on any level, and to give the player as much of the dullness of life as it can, while trying to make it even more dull if possible.
Tax Return Simulator 2022! Try to file Form 1040 within the allotted time frame without having the IRS piss interest onto you. You have a calculator, a pen, a ledger, cocaine, and plenty of alcohol to keep your sanity. Try to get all of the deductions and make sure you write down every essential transaction. But watch out, you may get audited!
Something as humdrum as someone filing their taxes would be what a vera-simulator is about, in that it involves something so agonizingly dull that its escapist value as a video game just gets sucked out of it. These types of video games are essentially interactive shitposts, only going to entertain those who would find joy in how pointless and uninspiring these experiences are. These interactive memes are made to be boring, and I think some of the people who develop these games want people to laugh at the sheer ridiculousness of some of the ideas in them. There are obviously games that are mundane, for example Wall Street Kid. For those of you who haven't watched my previous video on it, it's a game where the player must get rich by wisely investing in the stock market to keep up with the financial demands of their fiancé. I think in that instance, the game designers were trying to teach their target audience of children something that could be useful in life, thinking it would be a fun and challenging experience. But they just missed the mark on where the fun should come out of the game. It wasn't intended to remind people of the sickeningly boring of life, as there was some fun to be had out of it, and to its credit, there is an interesting, decently intricate plot woven into certain points of the game. Sure, plenty of the game is spent at your desk and looking at your investment portfolio, but if the entire game was you doing nothing but sit at a desk and look at your portfolio, then it would qualify as a vera-simulator. To compare it to other forms of media, they're the video game equivalent of any one of Andy Warhol's films, and if you have no idea who he is, you'll know all you need to know in the next few seconds. Lucky you. The film Empire by Andy Warhol was literally nothing but an 8-hour shot of the Empire State Building, apparently so influential to where it was included in the annual selection of 25 motion pictures added to the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress, deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, and recommended for preservation. What the fuck is life? According to Wikipedia, he stated that the purpose of the film was to see time go by. 1 week after the film was shot, experimental filmmaker Jonas Mekas, who is the cinematographer for Empire, speculated in The Village Voice that Warhol's movie would have a profound influence on avant-garde blah blah blah, more pretentious bullshit. What you need to know is that there's no sound or color in this 8-hour incident where someone forgot to turn their camera off and got drunk once they realized it, deciding to call it a piece of art in their booze-filled intoxication. Similarly, the movie Sleep is nothing but a 5-hour and 20-minute shot of a guy who... Why do I even bother? Whatever artistic motive Warhol had in mind, these do also differ from vera-simulators in that they were made for some artistic purpose instead of some gag to piss people off or make people laugh. That is, if we're taking Warhol's word for it. These games would be the musical equivalent of someone just recording sounds of their heating system run, making them into tracks on an album, titling them, and putting them on every known streaming service. These games are supposed to make you think to yourself, if I wanted to play a game that just involved me crunching numbers, I'd use Excel, and you'd be correct, and playing into the intention of some of these games. In fact, something similar is going on with me. I'm using Word to write this! You might be asking yourself right now, well then what's the point of you telling me all this? Let people do real uneventful things and don't play into this system of trolling and commentary. Well, although something may just piss someone off shouldn't be acknowledged by them, these games do have a certain type of value to them. No matter what their intention is with an audience, by having us do either nothing or something so mind-numbingly boring, we realize what actually makes video games fun. They're definitely a good tool for game designers to see what would distinguish their games from everyday work or uneventfulness altogether, in that they directly let a player experience what is not fun. It's where something unexpected happens with vera-simulators, since at first sight you wouldn't think much insight would come from watching paint dry on a wall. But we're reminded that we need more quality control on Steam due to the fact that a game like that actually got uploaded and put onto the digital marketplace for people to play. Similarly to how we're reminded that a lack of violence and limited amount of action in video games can lead to an immense lack of fun, reducing video games down to what a masochist would do during the summer. And thankfully, Common Sense came through eventually on Steam, as Watch the Grass Grow didn't get released, but was still greenlit. They contribute to the craft of game making by giving a good illustration of what games shouldn't be like, the most forgetful parts of real life. A shining example of everything people should put in their games to counteract any potential boredom that may come. These games do wonders for games that actually strive to be quality products, as without them, I really think we would have less insight as to what good games should be, and less of an idea how to moderate what actually gets put out to consumers. Watch Paint Dry teaches us that not every single piece of digital nonsense should be put onto one of the most popular gaming platforms for people to purchase, intertwined with how Desert Bus is an example of where gaming can go if too much censorship is put on what can actually be a video game. And those instructions actually resonated with gamers, as Watch the Grass Grow demonstrated. Vera-simulators make video games better.